I guess it's time for another unpopular opinion. This time, I'll focus on the case of Marc Fogel. If you haven't been following this particular case, Fogel, an American teacher, was arrested in Russia in 2021 on drug trafficking charges for attempting to enter the country with approximately 7 grams of medical marijuana. It's been reported that he had been prescribed this for chronic back pain. The medical marijuana was found in his possession while going through customs, and he was detained, arrested, tried, and sentenced to 14 years in a penal colony. He has since been released and returned to the U.S. Here's where the story hasn't been well reported. Why was he in Russia? It appears Mr. Fogel had been teaching at the Anglo-American School of Moscow since 2012. It would be fair to assume that in the years between 2012 and 2021, he would have learned a bit about Russian laws. I'm not saying he would be scholarly on the subject, but I think he'd know the basics. In case the reader is unaware, laws aren't necessarily the same from one country to another. Being an American gives no special rights or treatment outside of the USA. It pays to be as informed as possible about legal basics before visiting another country. My own health has taken a decline since my last trips abroad. I'm currently trying to schedule a visit to Germany and Bulgaria. I am prescribed a relatively large number of daily medications just to manage my multiple health issues. I am currently making inquiries regarding the legal use and transportation of these medications. It would seem a no-brainer, but different places have different laws, and as a visitor one must adhere to those laws, regardless of opinion of the laws. Once on a flight to Australia, I was seated with a young couple. It turned out they lived maybe 5 miles from me. About a half hour before landing, the young lady was sorting her large medication box. I was amazed at how many pills she was on, and even more so as they weren't in their original bottles. I mentioned to her that she might have difficulty taking those into the country. She assured me, "It's okay. My husband is a doctor." I asked if he was licensed to practice in Australia. He answered that he wasn't. I noted that the pills should probably be in their original containers and maybe ask one of the flight attendants if they knew anything about the situation. The young couple were becoming upset by this point. I just wanted to land, go through customs and duty-free, and go about my business. While going through customs, I saw the young couple being escorted out of the customs area and into a do not enter, authorized personnel only area. When I asked the customs agent about it, he admitted it was probably due to drugs of some sort, based on where the couple was taken. Remember, if your medication is not legally prescribed in the country you are visiting, they are then illegal drugs. Just an FYI from me to you. Back to Mr. Fogel's ordeal. Russia has strict drug laws, as is their right. Mr. Fogel broke the law. To say he didn't know is a poor excuse. This wasn't his first trip. He had 9 years to familiarize himself with the legal situation. Marijuana, whether medically used or not, is generally going to raise some issues if you attempt to transport it in any quantity from one country to another. Since the early 1980s, I've believed that it, and most drugs, should be legalized. People are going to use them, so it strikes me as foolhardy to not reap the industrial and tax benefits. To me, it's no different than cigarettes and alcohol. FYI, there are places where cigarettes and alcohol are illegal. The simple fact that Mr. Fogel is an American probably did bring him extra scrutiny entering Russia, regardless of how many times he'd visited before. I think the multiple trips would bring more scrutiny. U.S.-Russia relations have never been great in my lifetime. I'm old enough to remember when it took an official act to travel between the two countries. As Mr. Fogel had been teaching in Moscow since 2012, I would think he would know this and plan accordingly. As for the medical marijuana, I have to question the legitimacy in this instance. While there are many reports touting its usefulness, in many places it is still considered an illegal drug with no therapeutic value. Yes, there are places where the recreational use is legal, yet those places also have strict laws about bringing your own supply. This can be viewed along the same lines as moonshine liquor laws. The bottom line is that in denying the government the ability to tax and have oversight on a product is going to create issues, often of a legal variety. I also have to question Mr. Fogel's claims of chronic back pain. A flight from US to Moscow is going to be minimum 8+ hours. That long on a plane is going to play hell on someone with chronic back pain. Back pain is also a difficult diagnosis to confirm. Ask any doctor or injury attorney. I haven't seen any reporting of him having a serious back injury, so this leaves the question open. Also, I know a lot of people who use marijuana and other things therapeutically. Long story short, they enjoy the high, and that's okay, but you just can't travel with it. While I'm glad Mr. Fogel has been released, I also find the timing questionable. He has been used as a political pawn by both Trump and Putin. He'll be forgotten as soon as it's politically convenient to do so, same as Brittany Griner, who went through a similar situation. It's sad that these situations happen. Sadder still that our so-called leaders always find a way to capitalize on them. I guess that's just the American way. Remember, if you're traveling, be careful with any medication you're traveling with. Keep it in its original container, and if possible, carry a note from the prescribing physician. I'll suggest that inside the U.S., as well as outside our borders. With this Real ID mess about to take effect, I won't be surprised to see stories like this inside our own borders. In the meantime, learn as much as you can about the subject, especially if, like me, you rely on medications to stay alive.